The coming debt erasure. How Pi network could reset the global economy. The U.S. Treasury has sounded the alarm. The world is facing its biggest debt crisis since 2008. But unlike the financial collapse of that year, where governments bailed out banks and the burden of repayment fell on citizens, the next chapter may look very different. This time, a new solution exists, one rooted not in debt, but in decentralization, contribution, and consensus. The incoming global reset could mark the end of debt-based economics, with Pi network rising as the backbone of a new, debt-free order. The shift is already visible. Institutions like BRICS, initiatives like Gesera, and Pi's Global Consensus Value, GCV, all point toward a multipolar financial system where fiat currencies lose dominance. Hyperinflation erodes savings, wipes out pensions, and destroys the trust that holds societies together. Debt-fueled economies are inherently unstable, because they rely on ever-increasing borrowing to sustain growth. By contrast, Pi coin represents a consensus currency that bypasses the cycle of debt and inflation. If successful, Pi will be remembered as the digital bridge humanity used to walk away from debt slavery into a human sovereign economy. At the center of the current order lies the U.S. Treasury bond. These bonds are not just government debt, they are the hidden vault propping up trillions of dollars in global assets. Every major bank, pension fund, and sovereign wealth fund is tied to their value. But what happens when the very foundation of these bonds weakens? A pathway to liberation could emerge if such debt instruments were tokenized on decentralized platforms like Pi. Unlike traditional fiat, Pi's issuance mechanism, built through mining, nodes, and staking, anchors value not in central bank decrees but in distributed human participation. By tokenizing debt within Pi, the very act of decentralization could transform obligations into assets that are gradually erased. This leads us to the radical possibility of debt erasure. Imagine a world where U.S. debt, instead of weighing down the global financial order, could be absorbed into Pi-backed digital programs. Once tokenized, these debts would no longer function as chains holding back future generations. Instead, they could be redefined within a system that prioritizes human consensus and digital contribution over government borrowing. Such a system ensures that debt instruments are gradually neutralized, erasing what was once considered an inescapable burden. The debt erasure strategy becomes clear in 3 steps. First, absorb U.S. debt through Pi's decentralized asset programs, shifting liabilities into a tokenized framework. Second, expand Pi's reach as a dollar-like, stable economy, providing a universal utility layer that people across the globe can rely on for trade, savings, and value transfer. Third, by embedding itself as the default pricing mechanism, Pi renders traditional fiat currencies obsolete. This is not about replacing one currency with another, it's about dismantling the exploitative logic of debt-based money altogether. For decades, stablecoins have acted as bridges to the dollar for the unbanked and underbanked, creating digital access to a flawed but dominant system. Now imagine a gateway to an entirely new kind of economy, one not controlled by central banks, not dictated by inflation, and not manipulated through debt cycles. This is the promise of Pi. It doesn't simply replicate the old system in digital form. It offers an alternative, a fairer digital economy rooted in consensus, contribution, and participation. The warning has already been issued. Debt crises cannot be patched with short-term fixes forever. As the foundations of the dollar and treasury bonds falter, the world is preparing for something new. Pi is not merely a cryptocurrency, it is a blueprint for a global reset. Through tokenization, participation, and consensus, it offers the most radical possibility of all, debt erasure. And when that day comes, history will remember it as the moment humanity finally broke free from the chains of financial slavery.